So the World Cup fever is still on, and yesterday the Black Stars won their first game, and it was beautiful. The streets of Accra was bustling with enjoyment and suluku. This is the first time I've seen something of that sort in 20 years. I say kudos to the Black Stars, and we wish them well in their upcoming games against England. Today, our discussion is going to be centered around a particular World Cup problem. Have you noticed that over the past years, artists from different parts of the world get to mount the World Cup stage, but Ghana is absent? I am situating my context within Ghana because when it comes to music, we are recognized in the global scale. Unfortunately, Benin has mounted that stage with Angelique Kidjo. South Africa has mastered that stage with Hugh Masekela and a few other South African giants. And recently, it was Burna Boy and Rema. Unfortunately, Ghanaians have been absent. Now, when you talk about products in music, we have it all. We have rappers, we have reggae dancehall artists, we have reggae artists, we have Highlife, we have Hiplife, and we have Afrobeat artists. For Amapiano, we are championing it to the extent where we have decided to rebrand and call what we do Ghana Piano. And that is what brings to mind Kakalika by Dope Nation. Now let's talk about why Ghana is failing to meet up the standards and to meet up the requirements to match to make it to that particular World Cup stage. I wish our music industry will pay heed to the factors that I'm about to allay, and I believe that upon reconsideration and consideration, assessment and improvement, we can find ourselves on this big stage. Remember that the closest a Ghanaian artist has ever gone to the World Cup stage was in 2022 when Stonebwoy performed in Qatar at the fan concert. So there was a major concert before the World Cup itself, and there were artists from across Africa and the world. So there was Mahazan, there was Davido, there was Wizkid, there was Burna Boy, and of course there was Stonebwoy. The World Cup started in the 1930s. The first edition was in 1930 and it was hosted in Uruguay. It was a host and win affair. Uruguay hosted and won the ultimate mondial. Now, musicians have mounted that stage. Great musicians and all that. One of the most prestigious moments in Nigerian history was when Femi Kuti, the son of one of the world's greatest music composers, Fela Anikulapo Kuti, mounted the stage. Recently, it was Burna Boy because in this particular 2026 World Cup, he featured Shakira in the World Cup anthem. Now let's look at some of the factors we can consider if we really want to find our artists on that stage. First and foremost, we need to consider maintaining a brand and being consistent about it. Nigerians for 20 years struggled to find their sound. They struggled to find what defined their music. Eventually, they found Afrobeat. Afrobeat was already in existence, but all they had to do was to refine it and recoup it and make it the best way it can be. They rebranded it, gave it a few touches here and there, and presented it into the international world market. Now, this brings me to my next point: marketing. Marketing requires proper investment, and in Ghana, because the ecosystem is very small and a scanty one, so we don't seem to put in a lot of effort. But this, I always say, is very debatable because one of the countries with the greatest music of all times, apart from the genre of music, when it comes to one of the countries with the greatest sounds of all times, we are talking about Jamaica. In case you don't know, Jamaica has the best studio with the best sound, and it is called the Tav Gong Studios, owned by the legendary Bob Marley. And talk of their population, they are about just 7.5 million or maybe 8 million. I'm sure there has been some improvement here and there. We need to be intentional when it comes to presenting our craft, which becomes a commodity or a brand, to the international market. Nigerians didn't do it at a go. They took time. They used effort. It was an all for all thing. It was a collective thing that they had to come across to be able to let their brand be out there. Uniqueness. The people we are looking forward to mount some of these international stages, they have the potential, but we haven't allowed them to be original. Sakordie's greatest breakthrough to me was when he featured Ace Hood in 2015. But we were not really frank or candid with Sakordie because we didn't allow him to flow in P. We allowed him to do it in English, and it was a flop because Aesud is coming from a country where it's solely English. So there was no point, or there was no need holding Sarkodie down. Let me cut enough of that. Maybe it will be a conversation for another day. But the truth of the matter is, we haven't allowed our musicians to be original enough. We haven't allowed them to be who they are. We are Ghanaians and we do Hiplife. We are Ghanaians and we do Highlife. So how about we pick it the Highlife and branding it? There's one particular genre that I always feel is very, very big and huge, and that forms the backbone of most of the genres in Africa, and that is Afrofusion. It started right here. By who? Osibisa, the late Tyla, and the others. Only a few Ghanaian musicians have decided to go the traditional and original path, but unfortunately, our media landscape is not going to give these people the attention they need. So let me make a few recommendations, and let me juxtapose. So we are talking about Riala. There's a lady called Labisi. We still have Michael Adama performing. We have AC. We have 99 Faces. Look, when you go to a place like Alliance Francaise, that's where you're going to see authentic Ghanaian music fused with Afrofusion. Authentic, properly made, and beautifully made. But unfortunately, we don't give them the kind of attention they need. These are the products. It is high time we give these people the chances for them to mount the stage. Recently, one of the stars that has popped up and is giving us originality is the lady from Volta region called Enam. Solid, beautiful brand and a unique one for that matter. But the problem here is the media going to stop following sensationalism and trend and lay focus and emphasis on this lady? Let me do the juxtaposing here. Look at Angelique Kidjo. She mounts almost every international stage. She goes everywhere. She mounts every international podium. She performs to the masses, to the world, and on global scales. Why? Because she is unique. She has stayed within the confines of her voodooist ways, because she's from Benin, a place where voodooism is the ish. And she even has songs depicting voodooism. Maybe you haven't heard her song Agolo. She was literally welcoming the deities. That's the beauty of the African craft. This is what the world wants to see. But if you have musicians in Ghana singing like the reggae dancehall artist, Jamaica would proudly present Vibes Cartel or any other person within the confines of reggae and reggae dancehall to do the performance. The underlying factor, and I'm stressing on this once again, that we need to be original. We need to be unique. We need to be peculiar, because that is what Nigerians have done. Burna Boy didn't go there sounding like a foreign musician. No. Femi Kuti went there sounding like his father. And remember, his father is the originator and the propounder of Afrobeat. One last thing, our promotion, we need to be intentional about it. I've heard a lot of Ghanaian media stakeholders say that there's an intrusive thought that comes to their minds whenever a man like Adeshokwe is always in the country. No, Adeshokwe is very smart. That guy, look, Adeshokwe, Kenneth Ogungbe, and the others, and when I say Kenneth Ogungbe, I mean Kenneth's music. These people have been able to create the fraternity between themselves and Ghanaians and other countries. That is why Sakordie will avoid a lot of Ghanaian radio stations and will just go and sit on Adeshokwe's radio station and on his podcast. Why? Because they have risen the dexterity to a level. So branding, the market size, which I say is debatable, these are the factors we can consider. And I'm pretty much sure that in the next World Cup edition, we'll find ourselves in there. This is the Convo with Mali. And this is Era 360. Follow us on our various social media handles. My name is DJ Mali. Thank you.